First, I want to say I can't wait for this to be perfect meme material with just randomly she has the gi on, but I promise there's a reason for this. So now we're going to go into the no gi berimbolo. Okay. Now let's first look at what the differences are when you talk about gi berimbolos versus no gi berimbolos. Whenever we start to berimbolo people, right? And obviously I know that a lot of you in here watching these instructionals are going to be berimboloing people. But I also realize that some of you are going to be berimboloing people. So if a berimbolo is something you're never going to do, feel free to just skip this. But I wanted to make sure that I put it in here for those people who are going to attempt to try these, okay? Because they can be very effective. When we're looking at berimbolos in general, we're always looking to create some kind of upper back exposure, all right? It's pretty easy to create lower back exposure. But when we're taking someone's back, it's very crucial to create upper back exposure. When we do berimbolos in the gi, it's very easy to create upper back exposure. And that's for one simple reason. You have the jacket to work with, okay? So when I go to berimbolo, if we're both sitting down, for example, typical berimbolo, we put an outside de la Hiva hook through, we put a foot outside, and now we can use the jacket to get to my partner's upper back, to expose the upper back to eventually climb up to the back. So as I go to hit a berimbolo, I roll through, I place my legs in position where I have a grip down the end of the lever of my partner's ankle. I have one leg up and over the mid part of her leg. I have a wedge behind her knee. So when she goes to move out and away from me, it's a very difficult thing. In addition, when she goes to put her back on the floor and throw her back down to the mat, this collar grip makes it exceedingly difficult to do, okay? So now, as I start to extend my partner out in this direction and throw my hooks in, now we have a form now of diagonal control, because now I have control of my partner's my partner's collar up here by the shoulder, and I have control of my partner's hip and leg down on this side. So now when she goes to turn out and away from me, it's very easy now for me to start pulling my partner towards me and controlling my partner very easily. Okay? And now we can chase our partners back. The issue is, when my partner takes the jacket off, now we begin to start going into a berimbolo. Now, as I go to invert, when I go to create that precious upper back exposure, now my partner can just throw her back to the floor, and now there's no way to get into attack to my partner's back, okay? Because I'm limited in my gripping sequences because I don't have the ability to keep control of the upper body through the jacket, okay? So while back takes are going to be drastically less effective without the gi, we do have one thing that we can do without the gi that we can't do with the gi. And that's entrances into our partner's legs and attacking their legs with meaningful leg locks, okay? So we're gonna rate these in tiers. The most high percentage attack you're going to get out of berimbolos without the gi is going to be leg locks. Somewhere in the middle is going to be guard passing. And then the bottom tier is going to be back takes. You see a much lower amount of back takes with no gi berimbolos than you do with the gi. That's for one simple reason, because I can't control my partner's collar. I have no upper body control to be able to create upper back exposure, okay? So what we're going to look at now is we're going to look at ways to enter into our partner's legs, which is going to be most of the segment, passing our partner's guard, which is going to be some of the segment, and taking our partner's back, which is going to be basically on just naive people who sit up and don't put their back on the floor, okay? And you have to understand something else. When you're playing a berimbolo type game, with the gi, there are no heel hooks allowed. Without the gi, there are heel hooks allowed. So it has to be a modified berimbolo game where you don't expose your legs as much as you would with the gi. When we do berimbolos today, standing up, for example, I'm not going to place my foot on the outside of my partner's hip, because if I fall down like so, now as I go to hit a berimbolo, I expose my own heel And now the second I try to start rolling, you just put yourself in a deep outside heel hook, and anybody's good is going to break you from here. This is no good. So when we do berimbolos without the gi, we do it from a leg inside position. So I knock my partner down to the floor, and now I start my berimbolo with my right foot instead of outside the hip over here. I go inside the hip, and my left foot just shoots across to the far hip. So now, as I go to hit a berimbolo, when she goes to hit an outside heel hook, my feet are protected. And now from here, we can start to go into attacks on our partner without actually exposing our own legs. Okay? So the gripping is going to be different with my feet. In addition, you have to understand that the further you shoot this leg through to your partner's far hip, the more chance of your partner has of backstepping into an inside heel hook. Backstep. Now you're getting your legs attacked. Okay? So because of the differences in rules between gi and no gi and the limitations on the attacks in the legs, everything changes from here. Right? Back attacks suddenly become much harder. Leg attacks suddenly become much more prominent. And attacks coming from your partner on your own legs also become much more of an issue because now there are serious heel hooks and twisting locks that weren't available with the gi. Okay? So everything's much different. And we can't pretend to approach it as if it's the same thing, because it's not. So right now we're going over some variations and some differences between no-gi and gi berimbolos. So now we're going to look at a cross-body ride entrance from a berimbolo. All right, so our initial setup is going to be from what we just looked at, where we get a standing opponent above us, and we have outside de la Riva. Now, we're not going to put our foot across and shoot a deep hook with our left leg. We're just going to use that initial bump to get our hand or our hips down to the floor. So we put our hand down to the floor like so, and now our goal is to start bringing our head towards my partner's hips. Okay? So what I'm looking to do is bring my head towards my partner's hips and reach to a far lat post like so. Now, I have to get my head underneath my partner's legs. Okay, again, I know a lot of you aren't going to be doing this, but it has to be in here. Okay, I take my head, I bring it underneath my partner's legs. I do this by pushing, because obviously, normally we push off of our partner's hip and we use the extension of our leg to bring our head underneath. Without the gi, because we don't want to get heel hooked, we push off of our inside foot and we use that to bring our hips up and invert underneath our partner. Now, we don't have a belt to hold on to or a collar to hold on to. So instead, I fish for my partner's far hip. I pull my partner the best I can towards me as I'm taking my knee underneath her hamstring. Like so. Let's move back a little bit. So we're in a position like so. Now, I need to have a wedge at the long end of the lever of my partner's ankle, a second wedge in the middle of my partner's leg, and a third wedge underneath my partner's knee. When she goes to put her hands to the floor and move away from me, it's just impossible. Now, from this position, I want to start extending my partner out in this direction. Now, there's two things that we can do from here. The first is going to be against a basic opponent who keeps her upper back off the floor and exposes her own upper back to me. So, in other words, she reaches for my legs or tries to do whatever, she makes a mistake and comes forwards. Whenever I see this, the upper back's right there. So I just take my legs and I extend them out in this direction. Like so. Now my knee comes out from behind my partner's knee. I throw one hook inside and I lock a crossbody ride. Now the main issue that we're going to face here is my partner falling across to this side of my body, and now she's gone. So I immediately use that cross lat post that I had / grip of my partner's hips to post back in my partner's lat. So when she goes to push herself across, she can't. I also place a wedge underneath my partner's buttocks with my left hand. Now she goes to move out and across. It's very, very difficult. I have to make sure that her elbow can't come between myself and her. So I have concave shoulders and we're in here. Now she goes to move across. It's impossible. Now I start scooting and pointing my knees out in the same direction she's facing. And now from here, what do we all know? We have to get some form of diagonal control. So we immediately sit up, we chase the shoulder, we pull our partner back down to the floor. And now, once she goes to move away from me, we have diagonal control ranging from the left shoulder down to the right hip. And now it's a matter of attacking from crossbody ride, putting hooks in, attacking various submissions from there. Okay? So, if I know this is complicated, we're going to go through it again. My partner stands up above me. We have a variation where we have a foot inside, not a foot outside. So we knock our partner down to the floor, and now we post on the right foot, like so. So if you feel, go back up. If you feel that as your partner gets off balance, you can palm your leg to the inside. Then we go into ashigarami variations like before. Okay, we're coming full circle now. If we feel like we knock our partner down to a hand or to a hip, and we can't enter into ashigarami because we can't get our leg to the inside, then we go into a full inversion and we go into berimbolo attacks, where we knock our partner down. From here, I post on my inside foot on the floor, and I lift my hips and bring my head underneath my partner's legs, like so. Now from here, I go into a full inversion, and I catch my partner's far hip. If you can't get to your partner's far hip, go to the legs first. Take your knee behind your partner's knee and use that to extend your partner and get to the far hip. Okay? This far hip acts as the belt does in the gi for without the gi. It's not as robust as the belt is, but it is control of your partner's midsection to some degree. Now, as she goes to sit up on top of me to chase my legs or whatever reason, stay on top, she tries to base out, I just extend my partner down in this direction, and then palm my leg to the inside, lock a cross body ride. Now, as she goes to hop across, she can't. And now from here, it's a matter of pointing my knees out in the direction she's facing. So as she goes to move, I just scoot. And now if she turns towards me, she gives me diagonal control. If she turns away from me and I don't get the diagonal control, I follow up to turtle, and then we go in and we start attacking turtle. Okay? One more time from a different angle. Standing. We come in, we knock her down to a hip, I post with an inside foot. From here, my head comes underneath her legs, and we start to invert. From here, we get to that far hip. We go knee inside. We have a strong wedge with all of our legs connected to my partner's legs. Now we extend. So our lower back is off the floor. We put our lower back down onto the floor, and our knee comes out from behind hers, and we place a crossbody ride in. When she goes to hop across, it's difficult. If she does hop across, I just follow her up, and now we either have a sweep, or we can slide behind the second time. And most of the time, we end up taking our partner out and over to the side. We point the knees, and now she has a choice. She can turn towards us and give us a shoulder, or she can turn away. And now we attack from turtle. Okay? So we're going to look like a little bit full of speed. We do it a little bit more live. I put her hand to the floor. And now we're here. Now wherever she goes, I follow. Okay, one more time. She comes in, she steps a foot. We're ready to go. So now let's look at how to force upper back exposure off of berimbolo when our partner insists on keeping her back on the floor. Right now, there's only so much we can do, but we can do a little bit to be able to speed this process along and get to some back exposure here. So standing. All right, so we have legs outside. We get our partner down to the floor. Let's move this way a little bit. We place that side, we get our partner's hand or hip down to the floor, and now we start inverting. We go into the berimbolo. Okay? Now, from this position, our partner puts their back flat on the floor. And you feel like you just can't pull your partner forward anymore. Whenever I see this, I extend my legs just enough to be able to take my left foot, in this case, the leg over the leg, and place it as a wedge behind my partner's hamstring. So my knee comes out, my foot goes in. When my foot goes in, I make sure that I take my knee and I put it inside my elbow and shoulder. If I try to push out in this direction, I have my knee outside my elbow and shoulder, you'll never be able to take your partner, never be able to move your partner. So I have to align my ankle and my knee by taking my elbow inside my elbow inside my shoulder. Sorry, my knee inside my elbow. Now from here, we're going to look to start pushing, almost like a leg press, out in this direction. And now, even though she kept her back on the floor, we still have that upper back exposure that we need. Now all we're looking to do is throw a hook in. I control my partner's ankle long enough to be able to lock a crossbody ride. And now we have all this pressure to upper back exposure in which we can start to go in and attack our partner. Okay? So just a little bit of change in leg variation depending upon my partner's initial reaction. If she sits up into me, then their typical berimbolo grip works fine. If she doesn't, then we have to start going in and using a post behind my partner's legs. So we get an initial knockdown, we go in, we get to a full inversion. Now let's say my partner puts it back on the floor. If I try to use the initial berimbolo, I can drag her so far forwards, but I'm still nowhere near lower back. So that now, as I try to throw my hooks in, it's a stretch. So instead, I need to get her upper back closer to me and her hips in my lap. Here, I'm pretty much out of extension. So I need to be able to pommel my foot to the inside. So I take my right knee out as my left leg goes in. So left foot catches. I don't take my right leg out and then just lose the leg completely. I keep tension with the right knee. Left foot comes in. And I take everything inside. Now I have a hook ready to fire in. And now, even when she goes to move away from me, I still have a ton more extension now. So I extend, and I put my partner in my lap every time. Now we come through, we catch, and now we're ready to go. Okay? So we can force some degree of upper back exposure if our partner throws the back to the floor like she should be to avoid getting the back taken. We pommel the foot behind the hamstring, and we extend our partner forward anyways. All right, so now let's look at more realistically what's going to happen when we're trying to go for no-gi berimbolos. Our opponent's most likely going to put their back on the floor, and you're going to have to come up and start to go into some kind of exchanges where you are fighting for top position and guard passes. It's pretty easy to outflank your partner as soon as you come up because you're pommeling legs as you're inverted, so you can pretty much come up into a leg drag right away. All right, so we're going to be in a position where, again, I knock my partner down to a hip, and we have a leg inside again. Again, we don't want to put our feet to the outside and fall into heel hooks as soon as we fall. So we're going to immediately go into an inversion here and start coming up into a position where we have a leg drag on our partner. Now, she throws her back to the floor, and I feel like it's hard for me to get my leg inside. She's pommeling her leg. She's using her opposite foot to kick on my foot, and I feel like it's difficult to pommel my legs behind hers. Whenever I feel this, we're going to start to immediately take my partner's legs out to the side like so, and I'm going to look to pommel my 2 feet behind my partner's calf muscle. So that now from here, I can start to extend my partner's legs and push her knee down towards the ground. Like so. From this position, it's very important that I have a sticky hook in the back of my partner's Achilles here. What I don't want is for her to reach through and grab my leg and pull it through, and now she's attacking and now she's ground me on me. So I keep a strong connection here, so when she goes to pull that leg through, it's difficult. Now you have the choice of either moving from a scoop grip, or you can come around and take a tight waist. Now as your partner goes to fight you off and realizes you're coming up on top position, she's pretty much beat from here. You already have the height advantage. What's most important now is to get my head over that far shoulder. If she can invert her knee and face me, she can re-guard every time. So I have to get her knees to point away from me. I do this by coming up to a hand, up to a knee, and driving my head over the far shoulder. So as she goes to invert that knee and face towards me, I can always cover my partner's hips, come up into a leg drag, and go right into a guard pass from that berimbolo. That's most likely what's going to happen from here. Okay? So we come through, we knock her to a hip, however it may be, and from this position we have 1 foot inside, 1 foot outside, never 2 feet outside. From here, we always come through and begin to start threatening my partner's back. You have to give a real attempt at taking your partner's back. So that my partner brings that back to the floor and relinquishes the head height. Now from here, I start to really threaten the back. She puts her back on the floor. She's posting on my shoulder. She's kicking with her feet. She does all kinds of things. So I start to extend. And now I pummel my leg to the inside. Now you can go scoop, which we'll look at in a second, or you can go tight waist. Because her head's down on the floor, it's easy now to come on top. You can't try to come on top when her back is up and off the floor. Okay, because she has a massive advantage in head height, so it's hard to get on top. But if her back is off the floor and her head's that high up, then just take her back instead, because you always have upper back exposure. Now there's no upper back exposure, but she sacrifices the advantage in head height. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come up to an elbow, and now you have the head height advantage, and now we have a good position where we've outflanked our partner. Now, the whole goal is to get our head over that far shoulder. So we post up to the hand, and as we heist, we put all of our weight towards that far shoulder. So as she goes to re-guard, makes it incredibly difficult. And now we're in with the pass for the win. We've swept our partner effectively with the berimbolo, and we came up right into a leg drag. So what it'll look like a little bit faster pace is she has her hip on the floor. We have 1 foot inside, 1 foot outside. We come through. We try to get our partner's back. She resists. And we're up. We're ready to go. Okay? One more time. Yeah, to the side. And we're in, and we have a pass. You can use both tight waist and scoop grips. We're going to look at more scoop grips in a minute. We just look at tight waist now. At this time, you attempt the berimbolo, and right off the bat, you feel like you're not going to be able to take your partner's back, and you have to come on top. But you feel like right out of the gate, you're not going to be able to get the leg drag. All right, so your partner's doing a good job of not allowing you to get to their back and not allowing you to pass their guard. So you can have the choice of either settling just with top position and open guard, or entering into your partner's legs. All right, it'll look something like this. I go to invert. Once I'm inverted, I always, again, have to make sure that I'm giving a real attempt to attack my partner's back. She puts the back on the floor, and now I start to come up and go into positions where I go into leg drags. Okay? Now, when I go into leg drag, we can use scoop grips to come up and pass, or a tight waist to come up and pass. Either grip allows me to pass, and either grip allows me to enter into my partner's legs. Okay? So we'll look at first the tight waist, which we just looked at, where I come up, we get into a position, and the second I start to drive my head across my partner's shoulder, I come up, she immediately posts on my shoulders and inverts the knee before I feel like I can get my head in position, and next thing you know, I'm losing her. All right? When I see this, the second I see the knee inverting, I immediately just catch with a false grip over my partner's thigh here, and I just sit down to my butt like so. From this position, I flare my partner's far leg out and make space for my leg to throw across. And now we're in cross hashigurami. We have choices, obviously, to attack my partner's legs or to come up, start heisting, and passing from here. Okay? So whenever I feel back take failed, guard pass failed, we go into the legs and give ourselves another third shot here. We knock her down to a hip. We roll through. We pommel the legs inside. And now we come up and we start to try to pass. She goes to invert and her knee. I just immediately catch. And I sit. When I sit, I make sure I don't sit far back and away from my partner. All I do and I put a wedge outside of her knee with my knee. This way, the combination of the gripping with my hands and the pinch of my knees will pull her with me as I fall back. Notice she'll move as I fall. Now we're hip to hip. Now I make space, I come across, and now we're ready to work. Okay, so that's with the tight waist. This time, we go in, different angle. We'll use a scoop grip this time, where now I start building up. This time again, I want to start bringing my head across to the far shoulder. She goes to push out and away. This time I just sit with the scoop. Again, high elbow to keep tension running through the leg. And now as I sit, leg comes across and we're ready to work. Okay, so it's pretty much the same thing. One is the tight waist, where I just go over the thigh. I clamp and I sit. One is with the scoop, where from here, I pull my partner towards me, and we come through. The scoop grip is a very robust grip. If I have a scoop grip, she moves away from me, no matter how far she moves, you can always pull your partner back into you. Okay? So we use either a tight waist where we're over and we catch, or a scoop where we're under and we catch. And if we feel like the back take's failed, the guard pass has failed, we move right into the legs, where now I have a choice of either going in, attacking my partner's legs, or heisting up, looking for underhooks, going in, passing the guard. If my partner comes up to her elbow, we have kimuras, where now we can start to go in and attack passes like that. We can attack our partner's back with kimuras. We can go into all kinds of things from there. Okay? But at least you're giving yourself another chance in staying inside that offensive cycle. All right, let's talk about entering into our partner's legs while we're inverted. So we really have no intention of sweeping our partner or taking their back or getting on top. We just want to enter into their legs, right? And this is, very common, especially in sub-bowling situations where you want to get as many submission attempts as you can. All right, so we come through, we go through an initial inversion, we start attacking our partner's back. All right, obviously the first option is just to come through, use a scoop grip, and instead of even trying to come on top, we just immediately sit back, take our leg through, and throw our leg across. Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. We just did something very similar to that. Another great option that we have is as we go to invert, we come through, we put heat on our partner, and we try to take our partner's back. Now, from this position, I feel like her back's on the floor. We're going to take our foot and pommel it outside like so. We have an initial grip, we extend our right leg, and we take our left leg through. We start to create this angle. The good news is my partner has no real ability to start retaking my back because of the position of her leg. I have good control of her leg still. From here, my hand comes out, and all we're going to look to do is drop our right knee down to the floor and fire our left leg around the corner. When she goes to pull that leg out, it becomes difficult because of this strong grip I have over my partner's shoelaces. And now from here, all I want to start to look to do is to bring my right foot out. Now you can sit up and make a choice on what you want to do from here. Either attack the legs or go into attacks in your partner's back or guard passing, whatever you choose to do from there. Okay, so from this position, we go into an initial inversion, and we come through. Now I try to take my partner's back, and he puts it on the floor. From here, I'm going to extend my right leg and take my left leg around. Still, when she tries to move her leg out and away, it's difficult. Now I use the extension of my right leg to free my right hand. And now all we're going to look to do is look to drop our right knee to the floor and fire our left leg over. This grip is shockingly strong. When your partner goes to pull that leg out of there, that's not an easy thing to do. And in the time allotted, as she goes to pull that leg out, go ahead. You can easily get the leg across. And now from here, we pass it. We sit up. We're ready to play. Okay? So one more time. We go to invert. And we're in place. Now, as she goes to move out and away from me, it's difficult. Her back's on the floor. We extend. Leg comes out. From this position, if she takes her second leg over and looks to start clearing my grip of my hand, I switch to a scoop, and now we have all of our previous options that we looked at before. So we're in position. Now we're through here. If she keeps this leg over here, then we go into the near leg. If this leg comes into effect and so she starts taking it over and trying to pommel, no problem. Then we either come up into a leg drag or we go into our partner's legs on the opposite side. But as long as she's right there, it's pretty easy now for me to drop my right knee, throw my left leg across, and now from here, as she goes to move out and away, it's a difficult thing. And now we sit up and we're into our partner's legs. Okay? So our partner's attacks on our partner's legs are probably going to be most common and most high percentage here when we're working with a berimbolo without the gi. All right. You can also sweep your partner and pass the guard. Those are pretty high percentage. As far as back takes, you have pretty low percentages unless you're dealing with someone who absolutely can't be scored on. Let's say in the last 30 seconds of a match and the guy's, it's 0-0 and the guy doesn't want to get scored on and he has to stay on top of you, then sure, maybe he'll take his back. But in a submission only, you're in the gym and someone's intelligent, they're just going to put their back on the floor. And it's going to be hard to create upper back exposure without the use of the jacket, okay? So we have them rated in tiers there. That's pretty much the gist of the berimbolo without the gi. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I know that a lot of you don't even have any interest in using it. Obviously, if there becomes more demand for it, I'll make a more in-depth, instructional on it. Maybe even with the gi someday. But as far as no gi goes, that's pretty much what you're going to be looking at. A lot of leg attacks and sweeps and guard passes, all right? Again, I know that all of you aren't going to use that, but some of you will use it. So I felt that it was important to include that in this series. It is open guard, so I felt it was very important to get into here. So now, the obvious question, I taught some leg pommeling and float passing in the passing instructional. How do we prevent that if we're playing open guard? Okay, it's kind of tricky. It basically comes down to a constant kazushi and leg pommeling battle, okay? What you can't have is a position where your partner can look to start punching in underhooks on you while they're pommeling legs, and then next thing you know, you're getting crushed in half guard or getting passed right away, okay? So let's take a look at this. So she steps to an inside foot with a straight hamstring, inside foot straight hamstring, which is by outside de la Riva. And she puts her two hands on the floor and begins to start float passing, okay? Now, I talked about shoulder posting, like so, and if the hands ever came down to the knees or the hips to start punching in underhooks, which is true. She can punch in underhooks, and now she can knee slice across, other way usually, and start to pass me, okay? When I post to my partner's hips, I have to make sure that my partner's hips can't come crashing down on top of mine into mount or side control, what have you. I have to make sure that when I post to my partner's hips, my elbows are in tight like so. The only way that I can achieve this is with concave shoulders. If my shoulders are flat on the floor and I try to post, now when she goes to punch her underhook in, it comes in easily and she can easily slide across. So I concave my shoulders so I can get my elbows closer together. Come out, off quick. There's a difference between here, trying to bring my elbows together, and here, bring my elbows together. Okay? This extra couple of inches is what you need to avoid your partner quickly punching in underhooks and just knee slicing past your guard. Okay? So we come in, we concave the shoulder, she comes in, and we post to my partner's hips. Now when she goes to pommel an underhook in the time allotted, we need to be able to off-balance her to put her hand back on the floor. Okay, so we still have a butterfly hook in place. So now as she goes, we can always off-balance her. Now, it's a constant leg pommeling battle to get my feet back inside. If I just try to pommel this foot inside, as you know, if she connects her knee and her elbow, it's a hard thing to do. So I have to be able to bump her forward first, now pommel two legs back inside, and now I'm in ready to go. Okay? If, for example, she pommels her foot on top of mine, and she's shin to shin, I can't extend because then I just aid her in coming down. So I monitor the hips first. As she goes to pommel past my legs, her hips can't drop. Okay? And now from here I can look to use my second foot to clear her foot off. As she goes to keep a sticky hook, I take my right foot to my left foot, and I strip. And as I strip, I pummel my leg around, and now I'm back in place. Now I continue to off balance, and I bring legs back inside. Okay? So there's almost an infinite amount of variations that you can go through. I'm not going to go through all of them. That we're moving more into guard retention there, and it would take hours and hours and hours for me to give you every single reaction that she can give me, which we may go over in a guard passing or a guard retention series. But just as a general idea, we have to make sure that we monitor our partner's hips. We have to make sure that we deny her underhooks by having concave shoulders and elbows near each other. We have to have a constant leg pommeling battle to get our leg back to the inside position. Okay, so from here, if she comes in, just play a little bit. And I get a foot to the hip, and now I'm back inside. Okay, once again, you can see the pommeling. So I monitor the hips, so her hips can't come crashing down either direction. I keep her hips stable. So as she goes to move, go ahead. Now I feed her back inside, so we're ready to play. Okay? So it's a combination of the foot, the feet trying to pommel inside, making sure she never beats me in the leg pommeling, and a combination of me having close elbows with constant kazushi so she can't just punch at underhooks. If she just has her elbows close to one another, it makes no difference if she posts my hips and never off balances me. Of course, if her elbows are close together, it's going to take me a little bit more time to punch an underhook in, but eventually, I can always do it. But the second I go to punch an underhook in, she lifts me over the left shoulder, I have to post that hand back in. Now I can't post an underhook. Now I can punch an underhook in. Now when she lifts the second time, she can pommel her leg back in, and now she's ready to go into all of her attacks. Okay? So it's a combination of constant kazushi, monitoring your partner's hips, and leg pommeling all at the same time.